In a polished glass building nestled in downtown Chicago, the buzz of corporate routine filled the air. Men and women in suits passed through security gates, clutching coffee and ambition. But just outside those doors, one young woman stood still. Her name was Lena Malik, a software engineer, top of her class, fluent in 4 coding languages, and wearing a hijab. She adjusted the strap of her worn leather bag and took a deep breath. Today was the day. The final interview. The job of her dreams. But what happened next would not only change Lena's life, but awaken a sleeping truth within a man who thought he'd seen it all. As Lena entered the lobby, heads turned. Not for her brilliance, not for her qualifications, but for the cloth on her head. A silent wave of judgment passed, invisible but sharp. She reached the 19th floor, heart steady. But when she approached the front desk, the receptionist glanced up, paused, and whispered something to the HR assistant beside her. That assistant, a young man named Trevor, leaned over the desk and asked, "Are you here for the DevOps position?" Lena smiled. "Yes, I'm Lena Malik. I have an interview at 10. Trevor looked her up and down, hesitated, and then said flatly, "There's been a scheduling issue. We won't be able to proceed with your interview today." Lena's face dropped. "But I got a confirmation email last night. I've taken the day off. Please." "I'm sorry. That's all I can say." He avoided eye contact. As she turned to leave, crushed but composed, a voice spoke from behind a glass wall nearby. Daniel Brooks, the CEO of the company, had been in a meeting room. He wasn't supposed to hear that exchange, but he did. And something about Lena's posture, her quiet dignity as she walked away, struck him hard. "Trevor," he called out. The HR assistant stiffened. "Yes, sir?" "Bring her back," B. Trevor stammered. "Sir, we bring her back." Daniel stepped out, buttoning his coat. He was a man in his 50s, known for business acumen, not social sensitivity. But that moment cracked something open in him. Perhaps it was his daughter's recent experience with bias, or maybe the way his late wife used to remind him, character reveals itself when no one is watching. Lena was halfway down the block when she heard her name. She turned and saw the CEO himself jogging toward her. "Miss Malik," he said, catching his breath. "May I speak with you for a moment?" She nodded cautiously. "I overheard what happened, and I want to personally apologize." She blinked. "I wasn't expecting that. I also want to ask, if you're willing, would you give us another chance? I'd like to conduct your interview myself." Lena hesitated. Her dignity had already been bruised. But something in his voice, the quiet remorse, convinced her. Back in the meeting room, Daniel didn't just ask her about code. He asked her about values, resilience, her projects, her passions. And when the interview ended, he stood up and said, "Miss Malik, if you'll accept it, the job is yours." The next day, an internal memo was circulated. Subject: Hiring Policy Update. Diversity, Inclusion, and Accountability. Daniel made sweeping changes. Bias sensitivity training became mandatory. The HR department was restructured. And Trevor? He was reassigned, but not fired. Daniel believed in accountability and transformation. That afternoon, Daniel visited Lena's new cubicle. She stood when he entered. "I owe you one more thing," he said. "The truth." He looked down, then back at her. "When my wife died, she wore a scarf on her head. Chemotherapy. People treated her like she didn't belong in places she'd walked into 100 times. That experience changed me. But clearly, I forgot what I learned. Until yesterday." Lena said nothing, just nodded with quiet understanding. Months passed. Lena didn't just become a software engineer. She became a mentor, a quiet force of nature. She launched an internal diversity council, advised on inclusive UX design, and inspired others simply by being herself, visible and proud. Daniel watched the culture shift not overnight, but steadily. Less whispering, more listening. Less labeling, more asking. And one afternoon, he received a letter from a high school student who had shadowed Lena for a week. It read, "I used to think I couldn't be myself and succeed. Now I know I just needed to find the place where I'm respected." Daniel placed the letter in his drawer right next to his late wife's photo. Respect isn't about comfort. It's about justice. It's not something you give when it's easy. It's something you uphold when it's hard. Lena's story isn't rare, but it should be. Not because it's not powerful, but because no one should have to prove their worth twice just to be seen. This wasn't just about a job. It was about dignity, about choosing courage over silence, and reminding all of us that humanity wears many forms. Respect for all backgrounds is not optional, it's justice.